guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to do a bit of repotting of some of my smaller plants that definitely need to move out, especially this spring and as we head into the growing season. And so we're gonna do some repotting of a pink princess philodendron, my neon pothos, the marble queen, some string of hearts, some petunias. And instead of me just watching you guys repot, because I think that could be boring, I figured I'd also do some Q&As. So I asked a few of you guys on Instagram for some questions, and I figured, you know, put a video together of some frequently asked questions, because I tend to get the same questions over and over. And although I would love to respond to each and every single question, I sometimes just can't. But yeah, so we'll get started. So before we get into the Q&A, we'll just talk a little bit about kind of the mix I'm going to be using for most of these houseplants. I typically will mix premium potting mix and cacti soil, as well as add a bit of perlite. And the ratio I usually do, especially for most of these plants, will probably be like, you know, 70% premium potting mix, and then the, you know, 30% cacti soil, and then I'll just throw in a handful of perlite to add for drainage. For the variegated string of hearts, I might scale back on the premium potting mix and add more of the cacti soil and add a lot more perlite, just because I know they love to be in well drainage soil. But for something like, you know, the petunias or the pothos, you know, it'll probably be more closer to that 70-30 or 60-40 ratio. But yeah, which one should we start with? I think I want to start with the pothos. So this one right now is my neon pothos, you guys can see here. And what I really love about this guy is I love the way he's trailing right now. So I kind of do not want to move him up to a bigger pot. This is currently in a 4-inch container, but you guys can see, I don't know if you guys can see from a close-up, but his roots are really sticking out of this container. So definitely needs to be repotted. But you know, I love the way they trail, and I think they trail better when they're typically in a smaller container, or, you know, they like to be a little bit more snug. So I'm not going to move this guy up too big. I'm probably going to move him up to a 6-inch container. That is what we're going to do. So while I'm repotting, I'll then obviously throw in some Q&A. So I got my phone here. Let's pick a question. I think I got a lot of duplicate questions, but we'll kind of go through them and see where we're at with it. So one of the common questions I typically get is, do I have most of my plants in their nursery pots, and then do I put them in the decorative pots? The answer is yes. I never plant my plants in the decorative pots. A couple of reasons being, one is most of my pots don't have drainage holes, and I like the, you know, the easy access to watering the plants by just removing them out of their decorative pot and taking them over the sink and watering them and watching the water drain through. I really like to watch that, and as well as just, you know, better visibility on the roots like this guy. And for a bigger, larger pot or plant like my Mostera, to repot the guy, you know, it was easier for me to cut the container rather than trying to get them out of the decorative pot. So that's just a preference for me. Again, there's some people who, you know, prefer to you know, plant them in the decorative pot. So let's go ahead and do this. So while I'm doing this, I'm gonna pull up a question here, and then we're gonna start repotting this guy. So more questions. Some of these are really fun though, I'll be honest. Most of them are obviously plant related. There's some that are like, you know, okay. How much money do you think you have spent on plants? So this one's a bit tough because I've actually never kept track of it, and I think it's probably good to keep track of it now that I think about it. But I would say in the course of 2 years, you know, if I have like, you know, say over 100 plants or 100 plants, and I would say the average price point is maybe $15, depending on, obviously I got bigger ones and smaller ones. So, you know, maybe I would say like, you know, $1,500 to $2,000. But that's just me taking a wild guess on it. You know, I think the one thing about, you know, being a plant parent, okay, so when I'm taking this guy out of the nursery pot, I squeeze it gently, and just to loosen the soil out, and then I will try and force them out, but you can tell this guy's stuck. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to cut this nursery pot because you can see the roots are sticking out, so I'm assuming the roots are already grabbed onto the nursery container, so I'm just gonna trim this guy out. It's probably easier for me to do that. But yeah, getting back to spending money on plants, obviously, you want to find, you don't want to go too crazy. I've seen some plants like go on for pricing that is just ridiculous. Unless you really want the plant. I mean, who am I to judge when I've spent, ridiculous amount of money on certain plants like, I would say the Thai constellation Mostera. It was a baby plant. It was like $45 for it. But you know what? I thought, considering what the pricing is now today for those plants, I thought that was pretty reasonable, and they're nice and healthy. So I did not get another bowl to remove all the dirt, all the old dirt from this. So give me 1 second, I'll be back. All right, guys, I'm back. I got a container to put all the old soil in. So what I'll typically do again is I will remove the old soil from this plant right now, and gently removing it so that way you're not damaging the roots. So yeah, next question. How to revive an overwatered peace lily. Led my houseplant plantless and now he's droopy. So I would say, okay, because I've never owned a peace lily and I'm not familiar with them, I don't really, don't know what kind of advice I can get, but I'm probably gonna base it on just my experience when it comes to droopy plants. Typically, if there's two types of droopy, the plants, I find that they tend to droop. Either one, from underwatering because they're so thirsty, or two, they're just overwatered and they're just, pretty much just, at that point, I think the plant is very difficult to revive, other than just making sure you either remove the plant out of the soil and plant them in fresh soil that's not wet or soggy, because chances are your soil is probably wet or soggy, and then and then make sure that you give them a lot of bright light. Or if it's on the other side where they're just thirsty, water them. Make sure you see the water drain through, and then place them into bright indirect light. Again, I'm just guessing that from my experience of plants, I guess the general plant care tips, but I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with peace lily, so all right, next question. What is the #1 plant on your bucket list? I would say right now the swallowtail plant, or the Christia obercudata. I'm gonna put a picture right now so you guys can check it out, see what kind of plant I'm talking about. This is a beautiful plant. I don't know if I'll ever find this plant here in Canada, because these are native to, I would say, more in like Thailand or maybe Singapore, around there. But I've seen a few pictures of this on Instagram and they are beautiful. So that is probably on my #1 bucket list. And if I ever make it to Thailand, and I am definitely going to try and bring that plant over, and I don't care if I'm gonna get in trouble crossing the border for it or whatever I got to go through, I am definitely gonna make sure I can find that plant, because it is a beauty. All right, guys, so loosen the soil a bit, and not too much, because I definitely want him to be still in this, contained group of vines right now. So I'm gonna place him in his 6-inch container, and then just fill it up with soil from here on. And while we're doing that, let's do another question. Are Mostera and split leaf philodendron the same thing? So confused. I actually am still confused about this, but from what I read, it is just a very, from the name's perspective, they're the same. A split leaf philodendron and Mostera is the same from a name perspective. However, the split leaf philodendron or Mostera, I read just an article the other day that they are actually not part of the philodendron family. I don't know if that's correct. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, and help the plant community out. But they are, it's just a common name for a Mostera deliciosa or split leaf philodendron. Yeah, they are the same, but Mostera is technically not part of the philodendron family, which I thought was surprising because I always thought they were. But again, correct me if I'm wrong about that. All right, guys, so I'm topping this guy up, and I want to make sure he's standing really nice. and straight, because like I said, I love the way this guy trailed and how had a really nice look to it. All right. Okay. So there he is. Ta-da! I love the neon pothos. I mean, pothos in general are, I say, the best, the easiest and, you know, best plant you can have, no matter what your experience is, because they just come in so many varieties, and a neon one's one of my favorite ones. And I recently just got a golden pothos, so I'm excited about that guy. And obviously this marble queen we're gonna repot next. So this one's done. I'm gonna place him over here. Obviously, once you kind of you know, repot this guy, you want to just pour a bit of water so that way the roots and the soil kind of merge together. But yeah, let's go ahead and keep going. Next question. New follower, loving new videos. I'm killing my dieffenbachia. Spelled in hell. Okay, well, I'm killing my dieffenbachia. Some of these, it's really hard for me to guess how to revive them or treat them, because, you know, I don't know you know, how your plant looks right now, or the environment it's in, or kind of what your watering habits are, the light, you know, the lighting it gets. But you know, I would say when it comes to owning houseplants, guys, best thing you can always do is just understand your environment first. You know, whether you get a southern or northern or east or west exposure when it comes to lighting. Is your place a lot more drier or humid? You know, and from there, look at plants that will survive in that environment, or that will thrive in that environment, and you know, and just kind of follow its general, you know, guidelines when it comes to caring for plants. So we're gonna do the same thing with this guy, the marble queen, and I've had this guy I would say for over a year now, but again, trailing really nice. I love the way, I don't know if you guys can see like how it's trailing and it's curling up that way. So man, both those are just beautiful. I love them. All right, next question. Fiddle Leaf Fig trimming. Best way to trim it to a tree. So I've never done this, but you can always pinch or notch Fiddle Leaf Fig. So that means it's, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I know someone who does. His name is Martin, Exotic Tropical Houseplants. Go follow him. He's got the best tips when it comes to you know, notching or pinching your Fiddle Leaf Fig to turn it into a tree and propagate it. So that is the way I'm going to answer that question. But he's great. He was actually one of my favorite, or one of the first person I followed and watched on YouTube when I was really getting into plants, because he was just so knowledgeable and just, man, he's got tons of experience. So he knows everything about, you know, Fiddle Leaf Figs as well as other houseplants as well. So let's see what other questions we got here. How did you get into growing houseplants? I don't know how I got into it. Definitely the obsession kind of took off maybe in the last 2 years, but you know, I've always had plants growing up. You know, living in a home where my grandpa was kind of our plant guru. You know, he loved gardening, and I remember, you know, growing up, we'd be in the garden and, you know, he'd plant like tomatoes, eggplants, and whatnot. And indoors, he had tons of spider plants, like this guy. And he also had tons of aloes. You know, just remember, you know, being around them. So when I first moved out of my mom's place, I remember I took one of her plants with me because I wanted plants to, obviously, you know, in my home, and as well, they're cheap and affordable decorations. And so I had that, and then, you know, I think in my office, I remember when I started working, I had the typical, you know, cactus and bamboo plant, but never really, you know, understood plants at that time or cared for that. I always thought they were just nice decorations to have in your home. And then, you know, I guess in the last couple of years when, you know, I was living, you know, I wanted to add more plants. I think when I first moved to Toronto, I brought my jasmine plant, which is my oldest plant ever. It's probably like 12 now or 13, which was a cutting from my the plant I gave my mom and my grandpa. Okay, there's a baby one right here that I think I'm going to plant this elsewhere. This one's cute. So I took that with me, and then what I did is And then I ended up adding more plants into my home. So I've added the, a Mostera, when I was looking into plants to add in my home. I had a self-exposure window, and I wanted to add like tropical plants because I really wanted my place to have just that jungle vibe, and because I love the tropics, tropical environment. So I added the Mostera, and then from there I added, I got my spider plant, and then some pothos, and next thing you know, there's a bird of paradise and a Fiddle Leaf Fig. And yeah, that is pretty much, I guess, how I got into it. Okay, I'm gonna place this guy down and take another 6-inch container, fill it up with some soil. I usually do about like I'll put a third of the soil into its first layer and then place the plant in there. So do that. Next question. Are you single? Wow, okay. Yes, I am single, and it is one of the reasons why I'm able to do the things I'm doing and be productive with my life. Not to say that being in a relationship will cause you to not be productive, but I know it takes time and effort and a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I don't know what more I can answer with that, but yes, I am currently single and loving it. Sometimes I get sad. I'm just kidding. But anyway, moving on. Next question. Any tips for a beginner plantaholic? Yes, got tons of it. So as I mentioned, first thing I would say is research and understand your home environment. And then from there, read up and research plants that will thrive in that environment. I think the number one thing that beginners tend to experience, because obviously I went through this, is we tend to baby the plant so much, or feel like we need to give it so much attention that we tend to overwater. And I've heard, I've read some comments from you guys that some of you guys have watered your plants like every day, which is crazy. So that is, I would say, avoid overwatering, and really just try to get a better understanding on kind of your, your environment and the plant that you are going to add in that home. But definitely avoid overwatering. Make sure your plants are not in direct sunlight, because most plants that are in direct sunlight will burn. So make sure you want to give it a lot of bright light, but make sure it's in direct light. And again, it depends on the plant. Some plants can thrive in low light or prefer low light, like marantas and calatheas and whatnot. But yeah, that's what I would say. And if you are a beginner, I do have a guide to plantaholics or newbies in one of my videos. So I'll put a description link to that video in the description below, as well as a card in the corner right here. All right, so I think we're done with this marble pothos. Yeah, I like the way this guy trails too. So I think my goal with these, both this and the neon, is I'm gonna probably leave them in this 6-inch container, probably for another good, maybe next season. We'll see how he thrives next season, but I'm definitely gonna put this in a new plant shelf that I recently got, and I'm gonna put it in my bedroom, and I wanna put it at the top and allow these guys to trail really, really nice and long. So place this guy here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get all of these guys together. I'm doing a lot of talking and reading questions, and I think this video is already maybe like 50 minutes long. All right. Favorite rare plant at the moment. Ones I own right now, I don't know if it's rare anymore, but obviously the Thai constellation Mostera, and the one I really want to get is the Christia obercudata one. All right. Is there a Toronto plant-loving community that meets? No, I don't know. I know Home by Faith. I know she has a plant swap meetup like every now and then. But I don't know of a group, but it would be cool to have one. Maybe it's not something we can start one day. That just means more time for it, and I'm kind of running out of time with all the things I'm trying to do. All right, next question. Do you have a plant that you thought you would like, but after taking care of it, you don't like it anymore? Wow. Okay, that is. I'm trying to think of one right now, and honestly, I can't think of one that I don't like anymore. probably doesn't happen as much as me not liking a plant when I first got it and then end up loving it. Like a Ficus celestica burgundy, you know, I never cared for it. I remember when I would see it at the grocery stores and whatnot, I was like, it looks, you know, simple and kind of, you know, plain and whatnot. But man, after I got one, I fell in love with the plant. It is so strikingly beautiful, and Ficus celestica is just a great houseplant. Okay. Are you a Christian? I noticed you listen to a lot of worship music in your stories. No, well, my name is Christian. I'm just kidding, but no, I'm not a Christian. I'm Catholic. I was actually baptized as a Catholic, and I love music in general. And I really love music that has really nice lyrics and makes you feel really good. And I find that Christian music is just so uplifting, and it is one of my favorite genre of music to listen to when I'm just getting ready or relaxing, and it just kind of, you know, puts me at ease and in a calm state. So I like it, and again, you know, I'm not going to, you know, impose on what you believe in and whatnot. Obviously, I believe in you know, God and you know, but yeah, I love Christian music. I also like country music and, you know, some 90s ballads, especially, you know, some Celine or some Whitney. I also like, you know, old school hip hop and R&B. But anyway, yeah, so next question. Okay. Man, I don't know if I'm gonna get through all of these questions because there are a lot, and we're talking a lot, and I still got all these plants to repot. Okay. What was your first plant? Like I said, I think my first plant when I moved out was probably the jasmine plant, but I don't remember my first childhood plant because I grew up with plants my grandpa owned. Okay. How do you keep your plants thriving over winter in artificial heating? This one, I did a video on how to care for your houseplants during the winter season, so definitely check that out. But it does get tricky because the days are shorter, the sun obviously isn't as strong, so I typically will have to move most of my plants closer to the window. I will also get a grow light for some of my baby plants, and I would always make sure that, you know, I have at least a humidifier running, so because obviously the heater kind of just, you know, your place is already dry and it ends up being drier during the winter season. But those are kind of some of the general things I will do when taking care of plants during the winter. All right. Do I sell plants on my site? No, I don't. Part of the reason why, and this will also answer another question of any Canadian websites that sell plants online. Part of the reason why it's hard to sell plants online in Canada or across Canada is shipping with Canada Post or just shipping in Canada is so crazy expensive. Like if I was to ship this Philodendron princess, pink princess, to say a next province, like a 2-day shipping, it's probably cost like $30 for the shipping itself. So I think it's just ridiculous. But I have done in the past though. I have mailed cuttings. Like bare root cuttings, like a spider, and I'm gonna be doing the the string of hearts, that cutting that I'm gonna do probably this week, and I'll just put them in an envelope with protective, tissue paper and whatnot, and that can fit in the mail, and that typically only costs like $2 to mail, but that takes up to 5 days, right? So I've done that before. I don't think I'll sell cuttings on my website. All right. What do you do as your day job? I get this question quite a bit. I actually am a, what am I gonna do next? Oh, I want to do the Fittonia. I'm actually a marketing exec for a company, a finance company here in Toronto, and I've been with them for about almost 6 years now. And I've been doing online marketing pretty much since 2003. When I entered into my career, which at that time didn't know was going to be my career. I got into this company probably in 2003, coming out of my background being a sales, and I started working when I was 16. I actually dropped out of high school. I don't really talk about this stuff on this channel. I thought about maybe starting a different channel at one point, but anyway. So I remember working for a call center from 16 to 18, and that's where I really built kind of like my sales skills, which, not knowing that it will serve me quite well. Did that for about 2 years, and then moved on to doing like hospitality, working in hotels and whatnot. when I was 18, 19, and then I got back into the call center environment in 2003, joining the startup. And within 3 months, they were looking for a sales rep to join the marketing team. And at that time, the marketing team was only like one other person, which was my marketing manager. Anyway, long story short, from there, I kind of built up my marketing career. Ended up, leading the marketing team at that company. Was with them for 10 years. Became a marketing director. And then, 6 years ago, I was kind of getting bored. And then an opportunity came to join a startup in Toronto. And next thing you know, here I am. So that is what I do. I love what I do. I really love the people I work with. I love business in general and entrepreneurship. So it's kind of one of the reasons why, me kind of starting the CPG brand. A couple of things is, one, I love plants. And then on top of that, I love marketing and business and entrepreneurship. So to merge the two is something really exciting for me, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm also constantly challenging myself and learning new things. And being a marketing exec, you don't do the hands-on work anymore. You pretty much create strategy and mentorship and leadership and guidance and whatnot. And for me, doing the CPG brand is just a way to do what I love to do when it comes to plants, and also do what I love to do when it comes to like online marketing. So that is what I do. That was a much longer answer than it should have been, but I got rambling on. Next question. Let's see. I'm kind of going through because some of these are duplicate. Will you eventually be able to ship outside of Canada and right across the border? I'm gonna one day maybe look into this. I know a few of you guys have asked for some cuttings to be mailed out to the US and whatnot. Again, I think there's really strict rules of taking plants across the border, but I do have one of my followers actually works for the Canadian border, and I remember she was watching my Insta stories when I was in Miami, and I really wanted to take home a plant, but I just didn't know what the rules were. And she messaged me saying, like, technically you can bring a plant across the border as long as you obviously claim it, but you also want to make sure it's in a visible packaging so they can see what the plant, and you want to have like paperwork that describes the plant it is, the type of plant it is as well, if there's a soil on it or not. And I think based on that, once you kind of prove that, you can. So I'm going to try that when I go to Miami this May again. I'm going to bring some string of hearts cuttings, and I'll if I can get it across the border, I will mail it from there to some of you guys, and I'll put that on my website as we get closer to that date. But yeah, this is the red Fittonia, one of my favorites, and I love Fittonia. So the reason why I'm actually repotting this guy, moving up from the 4-inch to the 6-inch, is because these guys dry up so fast. And you guys know Fittonias, they're quite dramatic, and as soon as you water them, they'll bounce back up. But it pretty much happens like twice a week. So I think at that point it's because his container was just too small and there wasn't enough soil. So I moved him up here. So hopefully he'll last a little longer in terms of not being so dramatic. So there's the red one, and now I'm gonna do the green one. Okay. So next question, guys. Okay. Why do I use captions on all my videos? So they're referring to obviously my Insta stories, and the reason for it is, alright guys, so the video just cut out. It has a maximum of like 25 minutes when it comes to recording. So we're going to, that just tells me this video is gonna be super long. But the question I was reading was, why do I use captions on all your videos? So they're referring to my Insta stories where I throw on captions, and the reason for it is because I know when I watch people's stories, I don't necessarily have the sound on. So for me, I like to give my audience an idea of what I'm talking about in case you have the sound off. It's also a bit more inclusive. I don't know, maybe there's someone there who's deaf watching it. So I do like that, and I'm glad that YouTube now has closed captioning that can translate what I'm saying to words. So just being a little bit more inclusive, but primarily because most people have the sound off, and in case there's people who can't hear, I thought it was cool to just add it. It does take a little bit more work, but I don't mind it. What does indirect versus direct sunlight look like? Okay. When the sun is shining on your leaves, like full sun glare, and then that is direct sunlight. When It is indirect, meaning it is either filtered with a curtain, or maybe another tree that's on top of it that's causing only, parts of the leaves getting a bit of that sunlight. That's kind of filtered. Or moving it back to make sure it's not hitting your plant. That's kind of indirect sunlight. I think I explained that one correctly. If you guys have a better way of explaining it, feel free. But next time, it's not sunny right now. If it was sunny, I would show you guys. It's actually snowing on March 31st in Toronto, so that kind of is weird. But yeah, next question. Okay, I'm probably gonna close this video. I don't think we'll get all through all the questions because it is long, and I don't know if you guys are going to sit there and watch 30 minutes of me answering questions while repotting. Okay. Oh, one common question I get is, how do I keep my cat, Nemo, from nibbling on my plants or messing with them? Couple of things. So Nemo, first of all, she's 15, 2003, 15, 16 years old. And she just knows some plants are just not good for her and doesn't even want to bother with them. She does nibble on the spider plant and the ponytail palm. But one way to avoid your cat or your pets from nibbling, especially a cat, is get them their own cat grass that you can get at your local grocery store. So I got one for Nemo the other day. It's actually really good for them. It helps kind of clean their digestive system and hairball and whatnot. So when I get those, she goes for that one instead of the spider plant or the ponytail palm. Another way you can train your cat, especially if they're younger, is just use a spray bottle. So whenever your cats are going, near your plants, just spray them. Like almost like one of those, the spray bottle that you mist your plants with. And they don't like water, so that typically will get them to back off. And I trained Nemo doing that, and she just got to a point where she just knows not to touch it. So that is what you can do. Okay. Where am I from originally? I am Filipino. I was actually born in the Philippines, and I moved to Canada when I was 7 years old. I was in 1989, so I guess you guys can figure out my age from that point on. Yeah, my grandparents sponsored my mom and myself to come to Canada, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and it was November 23rd. It was freaking cold, and it was a bit of a shock, but I am forever grateful to my grandparents because, without them, obviously I wouldn't have the life or that I do have right now. So again, I'm forever grateful. But yeah, I'm Filipino. Hey. Update on your pots and merch and all of that stuff. So I am getting a new shipment of my the 3-piece pot set. Hopefully at the end of April. I just got confirmation that the packaging is now completed because I redesigned the packaging and I ordered a lot more inventory. So hopefully it's going to be back on Amazon at the end of April. And then I also ordered a bigger design and a bigger size. So I got a 6-inch and a 4-inch that I'm going to package together. Hopefully that will be around May. And then my plant stands, the problem with the plant stands is it takes a long time to produce those. So I don't even have an estimation on when, but apparently it's going to be probably around July, which, kind of sucks, but it is what it is. It does give me time to look into t-shirts and whatnot. So again, it's just spend your time to do it, right? Okay, next question. What plants does Nemo nibble on? Spider plant and the ponytail palm. Care tips for a bird of paradise. A lot of bright light and even direct sunlight for the bird of paradise. Because if you think about, where they are, especially if you ever visit like Florida or like, Mexico, they are pretty much in direct sunlight all day long and they are thriving really well. That's how you can actually get them to bloom, the flowers, if you put them if they get a lot of nice bright light. But yeah, so that is what, how you care for a bird of paradise. And again, just water when the soil is pretty much dry. The most I spent on a plant, and any plant you regret buying. I think the most I spent on a plant is probably like right now my Fiddle Leaf Fig tree, only because it was a freaking tree, and so I spent I think 150 bucks on it, which I thought was worth it. But in terms of like the most expensive small plant I got, which is probably the Thai constellation Mostera. Again, it was like in a 2-inch 3-leaf Mostera, and it was like $45, right? So, but yeah, I think guys, I'm gonna probably close this video now because it is getting quite long, and I still got these guys to repot. But maybe one more question while we're at it. Let me go randomly pick. Okay. Let's see. How much do you clean? How do you clean your plant leaves? They're so pretty and shiny. I typically just use a soft cloth and warm water to gently wipe the leaves down. And you know, it's just good maintenance for your plants, because not only is it an opportunity for you to inspect your plants for any pests, but removing dirt obviously helps the plant, because you know they need the sun, or the energy from the sun, to obviously photosynthesize. And if there's anything blocking the the leaves, that'll prevent it. So yeah, I just use a soft cloth and warm water. Although I've heard people make a coconut oil to help shine their leaves, especially a Ficus elastica. So I've never done it before, but you guys can give it a try. Okay, one more question, guys. Let's see. Oh man, there's so many here. I feel bad skipping a few of these, but yeah. Oh, when are you getting a dog? So I had a dog named JR, and he passed away over a year ago, in February or January, just the end of January. And he was Jack Russell. I've had him for 10 years. Amazing dog. Love the guy. And when I lost him, it was really hard. And it was hard for me to even think about getting another dog. But I do definitely want to get one again soon. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I thought I was going to get one maybe this summer. But I also know a dog is a lot of work, and they need a lot of time and attention, and I think that's one thing I felt bad with JR, especially near the last couple of months, is I got busy all of a sudden, and not knowing that he was sick. He had like liver issues. I didn't really get to spend as much time as I would love to, but I know living a life without a dog it's not living a life. That's just me. I'm a dog person and a cat person, but I probably will get a dog soon, and I'm looking for a couple of different types. I'm thinking of I kind of want to get like a bigger dog. I love big dogs, like a Bernese Mountain Dog, or maybe a Golden Doodle, or a Bernedoodle, or a Sheepdog. I don't know, but I definitely am considering getting a dog soon. Okay, one more question, because I really like answering some of these. Most difficult houseplant you own? Calatheas. I am actually admitting now that Calatheas just do not like me and do not do well in my home. My Overfolia, my Zebrina, and my Ornata, they are just horrible right now. Zebrina's gone. For some reason. I still have my Overfolia, but not looking too good. And even though I follow a lot of the general care tips and how to care for them, I think at the end of the day, my home is just way too dry for it. If I had a window in my bathroom, I think they would have done well, because they thrive well in bathroom, especially if you have a bit of window for a bit of light as well too, right? Because your bathroom isn't dry. It's typically in a humid condition. So. But yeah, I would say Calatheas they just don't like me. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little Q&A. Sorry I didn't get a chance to go through all those questions. There was just a lot of them because this video is already too long. And I do want to finish repotting these guys. So I got the Moonlight Philodendron still to do, a couple more of the Pink Princess, and then I'm gonna do the Variegated String of Hearts. I want to mix these two together and put them in a larger container. So I will be doing that. Other than that, hopefully you guys enjoy your day, enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
places in the world.